Hi, everyone, and welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you so much for joining me today on my vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture from anime to television to novels to music, sometimes video games, but of course, film. And one of my favorite films of all time is, of course, Star Wars Episode 5 The Empire Strikes Back. And from there, I love so many of the original things that came when George Lucas owned Lucasfilms. I loved the original trilogy. It's still the best Star Wars content. I love the prequels. I'm ahead of the curve on that. Apparently, a lot of people are now starting to catch up to me. I'm a fan of Rogue One. I like Star Wars Vision, the first two seasons of The Mandalorian, and the first season of Andor when it comes to Disney Star Wars. I was not a fan of Solo. I was not a fan of the sequel trilogy. I'm not liking Mandalorian Season 3. And Book of Boba Fett, I just thought was vanilla. Now, of course, there's a lot of animated properties. I kind of stopped watching the animated shows after they did the final season of Clone Wars, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. Well, other than Visions, I love Star Wars Visions. It appears, though, that it's kind of coming to this place where fans of Star Wars were hoping that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni would swoop in and save Lucasfilms from the clutches of Kathleen Kennedy. So, a little bit of backstory. I won't go too deep into this and just so you know, I am greatly summarizing this. So George Lucas, he wants to retire. He wants to step down from Lucasfilms. Disney offers to buy it, and he says yes. And he's thinking he's going to get the Pixar deal. So what happened with Pixar? He, Steve Jobs, John Lasseter, the three of them, and several others, I guess, formed Pixar. Lucas left the board of Pixar. Steve Jobs sold it to Disney, right? And and they put his hand-picked successor, John Lasseter, in charge, and Steve Jobs still sat on the board and gave a few ideas along the way. And of course, they chased out John Lasseter on a very flimsy Me Too allegations. It was one that he hugged someone or something like that. Very ridiculous. So now he's at Skydance Animation, and it looks like they might be taking the place of Pixar and Disney Animation. But neither here nor there. So Lucas thought he was going to get this deal. So he turned to Kathleen Kennedy. She had been there since Indiana Jones. And what happened, though, is as soon as the check cleared, Disney stepped in. They pushed George Lucas out. They gave Kathleen Kennedy all this money and power. And she, of course, fumbles the ball right away. They went into the sequels with no plan whatsoever and ended up creating this Mod Podge trilogy that totally destroyed classic heroes like Princess Leia. Now she's General Leia. Luke Skywalker, they turned into a sad sack. Han Solo, a loser dad who abandons his family. They turn Leia into Mary Poppins, and all our Admiral Akbar. They gave him the most humiliating death possible, all to uplift their new characters in the sequel trilogies. And everyone was kind of bummed out about this. Rogue One gave us a little bit of hope. Rogue One is a good film. I don't care what people say. Rogue One is a good film. It doesn't matter. Has one of the best Darth Vader fight scenes I've ever seen. So we were given hope with Rogue One and then with Mandalorian. Now, Favreau was given kind of free reign to do what he wanted. Kathleen Kennedy kept trying to get her claws into it. He was kind of keeping her at bay. But then Book of Boba Fett came along, and the producer of that show, even though technically it was under Favreau's umbrella of the television series, the guy went over his head to Kathleen Kennedy to do all these weird changes. That's why how we got the dumb Power Ranger Vespas, and why Boba Fett isn't as cool anymore, which even the actor was like, hey, I went into this thinking I was going to be this big tough guy, and ended up not. Mandalorian season 1 and 2, super phenomenal. And then they had just gotten us back with the finale with Luke Skywalker coming in. We were all excited, and then they burned those bridges by firing Gina Carano, who played Cara Dune, who you can see on you can see on the poster behind me. She's standing to the right of Din Djarin, who is, of course, the Mandalorian. And now we see, as the Mandalorian season 3 is progressing, they did not win back any favor. Like Obi-Wan was a total disaster. The only hope that came was in Star Wars Visions, and which fortunately has been renewed for a second season. I'm very excited about the second season of that. That's the only Star Wars content I'm excited about. So here comes Star Wars Celebration. I don't really know what to expect. There was even talk that they were going to cancel it this year, and they didn't. But as it is going on, one thing cool did drop, and that was the Jedi Survivor game, which is a sequel to Fallen Order. That looks good. It's not a Lucasfilm or LucasArts, which is their video game division. It's not a LucasArts creation. It's made by EA Games. I'm very excited about that. And they also dropped the trailer for Ahsoka, and I want to be excited about this, but then they drop this bombshell, and that's that they are going to do a new Star Wars film that doubles down on Rey Palpatine. So it's going to be set 15 years from The Rise of Skywalker, where she is going to become a Jedi Master who is training up a new order of Jedi. Wouldn't that have been great if that had been Luke Skywalker? That's what the fans wanted from Luke. They wanted him to be the Jedi Master that rebuilds the Jedi Order. It was his destiny, is what he was supposed to do. And yet they turn him into a loser uncle who tries to murder his nephew and then abandons the galaxy to the First Order, which is just the Empire, just under a different name. It looks like all of our hopes that we had in Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau were incredibly misplaced. Dave Filoni seems to, in a lot of statements he has made, he seems to be drinking the Kool-Aid of this sort of woke ideology where you have to insert, all the politically correct buzzwords and whatnot into Star Wars. You have to make it about that. It can't just be a good sci-fi story about good versus evil. It's got to be, we have to have all this inclusion and diversity and equity. It can't just be about Star Wars. It is grossly disappointing. I've heard some stories that there's a rumor going around that Kathleen Kennedy is going to be fired if Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny fails. I've heard that it's been recut multiple times, that they filmed like 6 different endings for it, and they're just creating like a Mod Podge, color by numbers film from this. I don't know if that is true or not, because we've been told that Kathleen Kennedy is going to be fired since The Rise of Skywalker came out. And she hasn't. She has her claws into it. I don't know what she has on Bob Iger. And now I've heard that from sources like Midnight's Edge and Overlord DVD that Bob Iger chewed her out after what happened, because Lucasfilm and Disney is currently being sued by a person they hired to be in charge of the Acolyte, which, by the way, is being run by a Harvey Weinstein person at Leslie Headland. She used to be Harvey Weinstein's assistant. Supposedly, she was hired against the wishes of Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, but now they've got her tied into this contract. So hopefully it'll be on the chopping block. Anyone connected to that guy and his craziness is ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. With all this, it just seems like there is going to be a doubling down on this woke content going forward. I suggest that Star Wars fans, especially new ones who are like, what is going on? I suggest you buy physical media. You buy the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, Rogue One by itself. If you can find The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 on DVD, get that. And then read the books. Disney is now publishing the old book canon. Now, the book canon is not the same as the movie canon. It's still connected, obviously, but George Lucas made it clear the movies were supreme, the books were step below. So keep that in mind, but definitely look in. Like I said, they're called Legends. Definitely get the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Get the Bounty Hunter trilogy. Get the Rogue Squadron book series. I think that one's actually 4 books. Get everything you can about the Old Republic. Get the old Star Wars comics, not the new ones that Marvel is doing, but try to find Legacy of the Force, things like that. Connect all of those things because it just seems like that's our only way to stay connected to Star Wars. It's Disney is gambling on this woke content, and I really think it's because they're mad at Florida for holding them accountable, and it's just causing all this consternation. So I've also heard rumors that Favreau has just given up, that he's just like, that's actually why he filmed Ahsoka in isolation, because most of the Star Wars stuff is shot in California, but he actually went to the Disney studios in Atlanta to film Ahsoka just so he couldn't have outside interference. So that actually might be good. But as far as I can tell, I mean, who puts Lizzo in Star Wars? Jack Black, Christopher Lloyd, it's fine. But the expansion on Bo-Katan's story arc in The Mandalorian, Din is quickly becoming a side character in his own show, and it's not right. I just think that Star Wars can be better than this. It has been shown to be better than this. I think at this point, the only way Favreau and Filoni can get back the fans is if they bring back Gina Carano as Cara Dune. They definitely set it up for that. They're trying to do it by, because, they introduced Zeb in The Mandalorian Season 3. He's a character from Star Wars Rebels. They're bringing in Sabine and Ezra in the Ahsoka series. They're bringing back Grand Admiral Thrawn. So they're doing everything they can, but I think they're overestimating the popularity of, say, Star Wars Rebels. It doesn't have the same power that, say, Clone Wars has, or the books even, or even the comic books. But like I said, pre-Marvel, and I mean new Marvel. Old school Marvel comics had Star Wars and they were fine, but these new modern ones are just absolutely silly. And I just don't think that they're going to be able to do that unless they announce Luke Skywalker is somehow going to come back, or like I said, Cara Dune is going to come back. I don't see a path forward for Star Wars fans to get connected to what they're doing. There's going to be a whole lot more announcements at Star Wars Celebration, I'm sure, but is anyone really listening at this point? I don't think so. So, Disney, if you hear this, I hear that there's like some secret division in Disney that watches YouTubers, especially negative ones, about your content. Take it from me. You got to win us back. We don't owe you anything. We, as fans, do not owe you the benefit of the doubt. You are producing Star Wars. You bought the IP. So, if you want it, if you want us to come back, you've got to stop doubling down on this nonsense. And by the way, this isn't a knock on Daisy Ridley. She's a very talented actress. I think she would have done great in Star Wars, even as Luke's apprentice. But she got saddled with a bad writer and a bad director, and I don't think it's going to be any better. So I just don't know. What do you think? Leave me a comment if you disagree. If you think, no, Jacob, there's plenty to be excited for, please let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. But as of right now, the only thing I can say I am positively excited for, or 2 things, is Jedi Survivor and Star Wars Visions Season 2. I'm not really excited about anything else. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment, tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to StudioJake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.